Hello, my name is Emily, and today I will be teaching you how to make your own DIY compost. The compost that I will be teaching you to make today, you are going to need a few things. A location to place your compost bin, somewhere far enough away from your home to where any potential smell, odor, or flies could be a risk. So, your first step is you're going to want to find your location. For me, it was easy to find the tree line in my backyard at the end of my property, and I began to clear the brush away from the spot that I was going to place my compost bin. So as you see here, I'm just clearing out all the brush. A little tip is don't be like me and go get yourself some gardening gloves. Now, necessarily trimming the bushes like I did, if you don't have to clear a little space, then you definitely don't have to go to the lengths of clipping trees. But I did because I found a spot where there was two solid, sturdy trees, and it would fit right perfectly in between the two. The reason I chose this location in between the two sturdy tree limbs is because if I needed to tie the compost bin down, if there was to be a future animal problem, say an animal, a raccoon, was trying to break into my compost bin, I would quickly be able to find a solution as far as tying it down and tying it to those two trees. Which, by the way, like I said, it's a perfect squeeze in between the two trees, and they're kind of tightly packed in, so I don't think I will need to tie them down quite yet. The trees themselves are doing a good job. So once I'm finished cleaning up all this brush for my compost bin, I am going to go over a list of a few things that you will need in order to make this compost bin. Now, there is no need to rush to the store to grab or to buy anything brand new. I 100% recommend that you use anything lying around your house, like I did. Here's what you will need. You will need a plastic bin with a lid. You will need a nail or a metal shank of some sort. Optional number 3, you will need a lighter, some sort of heat. Number 5, you're going to need shredded paper. Number 6, you're going to need planting soil mix or dirt. If you don't know what that is, go check out my videos on how to make planting soil. Number 8, Number 6, you're going to need your food or your kitchen scraps. Number 7, you're going to need a stick or a rake to stir your compost. And then the final one, you're going to need that location that we were just speaking about. Make sure that this location is in shade 24/7. So that's why I recommended possibly a tree line in your backyard. Now, once you have your location and once you have brought your plastic bin to the location, make sure that it is in that spot where you want it to be, because once everything is inside of your plastic bin, it's going to be heavy and pretty hard to move. Once again, don't be like me. Obviously, that is not the spot I cleared out, but this is not needed. You're going to want to take your lid separately, find that lighter or heat source that I was speaking on, grab your shank. This is just optional. It makes it easier to poke the holes. So once you got your little shank heated up, nice and hot, Use it to poke multiple holes all in your little plastic lid. You might need to use some elbow grease for this. Alrighty, now that we have our lid with all of our holes, as you can see, I just used a simple little screwdriver and a torch to heat up the metal. Made it a lot easier to puncture through that plastic. You don't have to do 16 holes, I just like symmetry. This is what your lid should look like. Now we move on to the second step. But yes, I recommend that you do this in the location that you want to keep your compost bin, in case you don't have a nice strong man around like I do to move it for you whenever you're done making your video. But first, you're going to start with your shredded paper. As you can see, I do not own a paper shredder, so we are manually shredding the paper. You don't necessarily have to do this, but I recommend cutting it up a little bit. But you don't have to necessarily get it all fine chopped like I'm attempting to. And you will soon see that I give up and just throw it all in there. And as you can see, I gave up and grabbed the bin and just dumped it in. Now, that kind of made a mess, so give me a minute. I gotta pick up the little pieces that dropped and fell around my bin, because we do not litter. After you have thrown all of your shredded paper and recycled paper into the plastic compost bin, go ahead and grab your bucket of dirt. Your bucket of soil. Pre-mixed soil if you have previously watched my video on how to do that. Go ahead and add your soil on top of all that paper. You don't necessarily have to do it exactly step by step, just as long as you have mud, shredded paper, and your kitchen scraps in the bin, you should be good to go. I don't think that it's going to make a difference which order you put them in. There I am draining some of the water out of the muddy soil mix. And as you can see, I give up again and just throw the whole bin in there. This is me saying I can't believe I am out here doing this. because your next step is using your rake or your big stick to mix around the compost, the shredded paper, the mud, and the rotten food. Really get in there and mix it all around. Back to the lid. You want to place your lid. Oh, do I have mud in my eye? Looks like I have mud in my eye. Anyways, here I go, Hercules, trying to pick that dang thing up. And there you have it, ladies and gents. That is how you make a DIY compost bin. Continue adding paper, recycled paper now in your home. Make yourself a little bin for paper for your family members to throw all their paper into separately so you can add it to your compost. Don't throw away your fruit. Don't throw away your coffee grounds. Oh, that's what brings me to what I need to tell you guys next, and that is what is good for your compost and what is not good for your compost bin. So, I have officially showed you how to make your compost bin. Here is a very detailed list on what you will want to add to your compost bin and what you will not want to add to your compost bin. So let's start off first with what you do not want to add to your compost bin. You do not want to add any meats, any bones, any grease, any oil, any whole eggs, or any dairy products. You will not want to add these to your compost pile because they decompose very slowly, they cause odors, and they can attract rodents. Do not add pet feces or cat litter to the compost pile either. Also, you're going to want to avoid any treated wood products. They may contain harmful chemicals. Any weeds with mature seeds. When you spread the compost, you'll spread those weeds as well. You don't want to add any dog or cat feces, no kitty litter, and no human waste as well. There are some people that do that, but that is not what we are doing here today. Meat-eating animals may carry diseases, and kitty litter may contain chemicals. And it says here about oils and fats, bread products, rice and pasta, sauces, dairy products, nuts, fish, and meat or bones. These will cause odors and problems and attract pests. That is what you do not want to add to your compost. Now here are the things you do want to add to your compost. Alternative layers of nitrogen-rich greens and carbon-rich browns. So great greens are like vegetable peelings, rotten fruit, coffee grounds, tea leaves. Now the best browns, you have dry leaves, grass, and plant stalks. Shredded newsprint paper, non-toxic only, or brown paper, aka brown paper bags. You can use cut-up cardboard to recycle the large pieces, of course. Other paper, unbleached paper towels, napkins, etc. Wet wipes is okay as long as they're not greasy. You can also add rinsed crushed eggshells, coffee grounds. You can also add pet hair to help discourage rodents. Did you know that finally a use for your dryer lint? Add it to your compost pile as one of your browns. Be sure to use lint from biodegradable fibers like organic cotton rather than synthetic. Here are a couple tips. So cut food scraps into smaller pieces for faster decomposition. A glass or metal container for collecting kitchen waste won't hang onto odors like the way plastics do. A tight-fitting lid will keep the fruit flies out. If the fruit flies bother you, store food scraps in fridge or freezer. That is for keeping compost in the kitchen. You can make this compost bin and keep it inside your house. Now if you are like me and want to place it outside, because that seems like common sense, you want to select a level partially shaded spot with good water drainage for your bin. Place it to 20 to 30 centimeters away from any walls, any fences, any bushes, any doors, and any windows. Keep it away from your house. Whenever you add a food layer, green or eggshells, top it with the browns, aka your paper, your cardboard, etc. The beneficial microorganisms in your compost pile need oxygen. Leave lots of airspace in your bin and mix the contents every week or two. Collect dry leaves and grass in a separate dry container. Then you can add them year-round. Compost is generally ready to use after a few months. Don't be alarmed if your pile stings or stinks. That means materials are decomposing. If you're making your own bin, the ideal size is about 1 cubic meter. Did you know that compost contributes more nutrients to your yard and garden than sterilized peat moss? Also, did you know organic waste that ends up in the landfill will decompose without oxygen and produce methane and greenhouse gases? Troubleshooting. Compost pile is wet and stinky. So here are some solutions to some problems you may run into along the way. So the problem you may have too many greens. The solution is add browns, which is your cardboard and whatnot, paper. So you want to add them into the pile and then mix them up a little bit, turn the pile, and then put scraps in the center of your compost pile. Now here's another problem. What if your pile is dry? So the problem is you have too many browns and not enough water. Add some water to it. Add fresh kitchen scraps along with the water, moisten the pile with water and cover to reduce evaporation. Now what if your pile is cold? That means it has a lack of nitrogen, and your solution is to add some more greens. Now what if your compost is attracting animals, wildlife, pests, rodents and raccoons, etc.? Your problem is improper materials added and insufficient storage. And insufficient coverage as well. Your solution for that is use a pest-resistant bin. Avoid adding grease, oils, meats, and breads. So it's saying that you won't have a problem with rodents or wildlife if you don't add pasta. If you don't add greases, oils, meats, or breads. Now, what if your compost is attracting fruit flies? The problem is food scraps are exposed. You must not have your lid on correctly. The solution is put kitchen scraps in the center pile and cover greens with your browns. So put your food scraps, which is your greens, and then cover it with your paper scraps. Did you know that compost has a high pH balance with high levels of nutrients that many plants crave? Composting is cheap and easy, and it turns almost half of your garbage into plant food. Try raking it over your grass and spreading it around shrubs, trees, and flowers, or dig it into the soil of vegetable beds before you plant. That's all I have for today, folks. I'll see you next time. Peace.